the responsibility, you got to be careful what you ask for. I'll say it again, because you want to do 20 deals. Do you know what it takes
to do 20 deals?
To do 20 deals, because you still have friends, you still got family, I got a wife, I got all the obligations, double the side of the family now, checking on mama, cha-cha, pua, this and that. You got to do those obligations, people getting married, and when you're not there, they're like, all alone with me, and we're waiting for the sunlight.
Personal stuff happening as well, and I'm like, you know what, now it's the holidays. Right. Why not get, kick back, get my friends over, talk shit. We were, before we started recording the episode, Satmik was sharing with me a crazy story, related to investment properties and tenants, and man,
right.
So what was your main takeaway? We're not going to disclose the story specifics on the podcast, but I think generally speaking, Toronto, Ontario is fucking crazy. You're a realtor.
Yes.
And tenants know what the fuck they can get away with.
No word of a lie. I think with tenants, there's two sides to this. There's a huge opportunity for investors, number one, to capitalize on not just their property appreciating, but also making an investment, a return on investment from the tenant side of things, from leasing it out, renting it out, making some money. Now, it all depends on what your structure is, what you're looking for. You want to make sure you're breaking even, number one. And if you're making any extra money, of course, it makes sense. So that's just the sort of breakdown of what someone's looking for when you're getting a lease property or an investment property within your portfolio, or whether it's 1, 2, 3, you start from somewhere. But being educated on what it takes to be a landlord, there's a lot of rules, a lot of laws in place. And I think our structure currently here in Ontario, I think maybe even across Canada, favors the tenants over the landlord more times than not. So that makes it already a very tough challenge as a landlord to, number one, you should definitely do your due diligence screenings, etc. But the challenges as a landlord is to make sure the tenant or the individual I'm leasing into or renting into my apartment, are they the right fit? One, right. Are they the qualified client that can come in, take care of my property, headache free? That's the ideal scenario for any landlord. You just want to get your monthly rent, make sure things are good, property's fine, neighbors are good, and then you take it out. But when things go bad, that's when your headache comes in. You got to go to the property several times. And I mean, we're always looking at the best case scenarios when you're buying property, making money. Things are going well, how you're positioning yourself for the next potential investment where you're going. But then when things go sour, for example, garbage not put out, you're getting notices on your property from the city. You got to get these addressed. The onus is on the landlord, not on the tenant. So, these are just a few examples, but
or when they stop paying rent,
or they
they fuck your place up.
Of course,
all that you got to consider. And you're right, man. It's like the tenants kind of, the way the system works is favors the tenant at the end of the day, and it's a very lengthy process. I have other friends that have shared stories and some of the nightmares that they have to deal with, especially when it comes to kicking tenants out. But what's the process like?
Yeah, so the process is different from city to city. So, for example, in Toronto, you file with the LTB, Landlord Tenancy Board, and they will obviously review your case. And in most cases, it can take 60, 90, 120 days. Now, with COVID-19, there's a huge backlog. Think about it. People lost jobs. People weren't paying rent. They were, some companies were getting some rent subsidies. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if you just can't pay rent because you're not earning any money, this is like a lose-lose situation. Landlord, it's just a domino effect that goes right down. So the LTB has been bombarded with so many complaints in general to kick tenants out. Now, they're not going to kick them out if you're not going to make them homeless. So that's where the rights for the tenant comes into play. There's got to be justifiable grounds to kick them out if there's, for example, community disturbance. Property damage does come into play a little bit,
or any sort of like criminal
activity 100%. But I mean, in most cases, as a landlord, you may not know this what they're doing inside the house, because that's their private grounds, right? So it's very important to kind of set your inspections, maybe, give them notices that you're coming in on random times. Give them their notice, 24, 48-hour notice that you're coming on such and so date. Kind of catches them off guard. So you can go in, do your inspection, take a look at the property. You see damages, you give them the notice from the LTB, especially if they're not paying rent. The one takeaway for any landlord out there today: do not let it go beyond day one if they miss rent. The day they miss the day they're late on rent, you give them the notice, because if they pay you, you can always revoke the notice, right? But if they don't pay you and they're like, I just need 5 more days for the check to clear, say, look, I totally understand. I'll give you the notice. When you pay me, I'll take the notice back and we'll sign from both sides that rent was received, so it's revoked. But if you don't do that, you've just wasted 5 days, and the tenancy board, you have to give 15 days for the tenant to pay up or give them a chance to make things right with the landlord before you can file a complaint with the LTB. So that's just over 2 weeks for you to give them. So you should just do it right away. Submit the form, give them the notice, and don't take the chance. You can only bet on yourself. So you do what you can do best and give them a benefit of the doubt, but cover yourself at all times.
Yeah, and also I think the big takeaway is not to rush things. Especially when it comes to screening tenants, do your due diligence. So the real estate market is crazy. Satmik is a homie of mine. We've known each other for what, 10 plus years.
10 plus years, decade. Yeah.
You've been killing it.
Thank you.
The real estate game itself has been kind of like a slaughterhouse over the last, even the course of this pandemic.
Right.
Prices are just fucking
through the roof. No doubt.
There's money. People are buying.
Investors
prices are the only reason prices are going so high is people are bidding at those prices.
Right.
And there's a question of what is the true intrinsic value of these homes? Because right now there's a big gap between the intrinsic value. What are these homes really worth? Because there was a time in our lives where you would look at comps and be like, this one has hardwood, this one doesn't have hardwood.
Right.
And you would make the adjustments. Right now, it's like, I need to get the fuck in.
Yes.
And, even with me, when doing mortgages, like, financing conditions have been, like, that needs to be waived to even be considered.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Good luck trying to get a house if you have a financing condition. There's someone out there ready to put in a firm deal, and the numbers are absurd to begin with.
Right.
So, but no, I couldn't agree more with you. I think since 2008, 2009, when the market really did go down, since then we haven't even seen the market go down. It's just been going up, up, up. We had that one little blemish, if you want to call it, in the market when they had the foreign investor tax come in back in, I believe it was 2018 or
the 15%.
The 15%. That was a little slowdown. It was a little speed bump in the real estate market, but as soon as it got by the speed bump, the prices start to skyrocket again. And then the real question marks were with COVID.
Right.
COVID slowed it down, 2020. And 2020 was a year where whoever bought, you felt like you were a genius in hindsight today. But you were also rolling the dice because you don't know where things were going to go. People were losing jobs. The economy was so unstable. And it was volatile.
Right. I mean, there was a big question mark. It was like, are we going to get to the end of this?
Right.
And how are things going to look, when things are over?
Right.
And, right now things have kind of, even though what's it called? Omicron is still out there now. And then, there's the 4th mutation of this virus. But, things are kind of returning back to normal. Sports games are back on, playoffs are back on. People are going to stadiums to watch games. Restaurants are open. But of course, there's adjustments and whatnot. But, at that time, there was a big what if. Mm-hmm. And now I think even with real estate, during the period of those 18 months, people saved a shitload of money too.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they had a lot of money saved up.
Yeah.
And now I think even this new generation of kids, it's like, instead of spending money on goods and services like, buying purses or, iPods or whatever the case is, these kids are buying like not just real estate, but they're putting their money into the market.
Right.
And that's
two things to that though. I think there was this falsified notion that you had this equity because of the increases in the homes. So people felt, oh man, we bought this house for say $300,000. Now it's $1 million. You have all this surplus of money when it was already an inflated market to begin with. The numbers were they were questioning this back in 2017, 18 after the first influx, that these homes are not really worth that. But then, Now we have a second jump. Like this year alone, they're talking about 25 to 30% increase, of real estate on its own. We don't have that on our salaries. I mean, cost of living continues to climb. Look at gas prices today. So this falsified notion of people, most of their money is in their real estate portfolio. All other industries were down throughout COVID. Real estate was holding up Canada for a very long time.
I agree with you on that. Real estate definitely was holding us up, but so was the stock market, right?
Yeah, well, there was an opportunity there too, right?
The crazy thing was that none of the markets were truly reflecting what's happening in the world right now. Mm-hmm. Stock markets were at all-time highs, real estate all-time highs, inflation, of course, continuing to go through the roof. And then you got crypto, which now a couple of days ago, or even today actually, depending on when this episode comes out, dipped like 30% overnight, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the coins. But, the reflection of the markets wasn't truly of the economy. I know what's going on, right?
I was referencing to the point when COVID-19 actually struck. The markets had gone down. There was definitely an opportunity to invest in the stock market. But what didn't take a hit? Mm-hmm. Real estate.
That's true.
That remained. So, that's the constant that I'm taking coming into the pandemic was, all right, out of all industries, all of the levels out there, what was the one constant pre-COVID and throughout COVID, and hopefully getting out of COVID? I can't predict what's going to happen, but I'm just saying real estate continued to climb, didn't take a dip in any one of the market areas. In fact, continued to go up, which is scary because you think about what $1 million buys you today compared to when we were growing up. We were like, we're going to get a home, start a family, expand.
It was considered $1 million home.
Correct.
Right.
$1 million gets you now like what? Townhouse.
A million is the new 500K.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Look at what was it? Sandalwood and Countryside. There were homes. I saw on TikTok, but homes were going on sale. Lineups around the corner. They were listed for I think 1.6
or 7?
1.6, 1.7.
Detached homes
went as high as 2.2.
Exactly.
Do you think, Satmik, that prices are going to continue going up? What's your personal sentiment?
That's a great question. Yeah. In short, I don't think there's anyone in the game that can predict what's going to happen. It's just like they say the stock market. No one can predict what will happen. I don't see anything slowing down from our perspective unless the government intervenes somewhere. Mm-hmm. That's the best way I could say things could slow down. Interest rates, they put on remember, stress tests came in several times. They increased it a few times, which slowed down the market a little bit. But people are interesting, man. They find ways around it. Creative things happen. And
creative solutions.
Right? And they find ways around it to get things done. And to be very honest, banks want to hand out money, especially during a pandemic, because the circulation of money is not happening. People are holding on to their money. Banks want to give you money. Right. That's the way they make money.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it goes. So I don't see it really slowing down unless something significant comes in and poses a risk to the market. But because supply is so low, we always hear the supply demand thing is going on. Material costs are extremely high. Builders are now dictating prices in the next 3 years. So the price that you're paying today is what the occupancy price is in 3 years or 2 years when you take occupancy.
Right.
That's the price you're paying today. Yeah. So they're going to give you ticket price and there's no negotiations. Believe this, I'll tell you a story with this one builder. There's ticket price of, let's just say the Sandalwood and Countryside that you were talking about on Torbram. The builder goes out and has a ticket price of a house, let's say a detached house that's 2,800 square feet for $1.6 million.
Okay.
That's the ticket price. So if a buyer comes in at 1.6, says, I'll buy it, here's my 20% down, they should get the house, right? Mm-hmm. But what happened is the builder signed back to the buyer on ticket price saying, all right, we'll sign back at 1.65. Do you want it?
Yeah.
If you don't want it, we got a lineup of 200 people over here. We'll sell it at 1.65 and make 50 grand today.
How long after was that from the initial?
Well, the price list comes out, let's say 30 days prior to the actual launch.
Right.
So they give everyone the chance. If VIP launches, you have, gold packages all the way through and before it gets to the public.
Okay.
Right. And then you can come in with your realtor and buy with the builder. But let's say you got a price list and now the price, you're like, I'll take this elevation A, this model, and the price is 1.6 and you're ready to buy. You got drafts in hand, IDs, everything to go.
Yeah.
You go in, show up. And then next thing you see is a builder signing back.
Okay.
So think about it. You go buy a car, ticket price is ticket price. You know when you buy the car and you drive it off, 25% gone right off the bat.
Absolutely.
In this case, you're buying a house. Now the builder's saying price is no longer 1.6 on launch day. If you want it, it's 1.65. If not, we'll try it with the other 200 people in line. Do you want it? You're pretty much forced to pay this 50 grand like bonus for them for no reason, or you negotiate back and sign back at 1615 or 1625 and negotiate a price. It's crazy to see the power that builders have today, and they control what's going on because construction
they're taking advantage of simple supply demand basics,
principles.
At the end of the day, there's a bottleneck in supply chain across the board. I was just reading up about it today as well. Even the LCBO, they were saying a stock up on liquor for the holiday season because there's supply chain bottlenecks or shortages on their end.
Wow.
And it's like one of those things where, like, at the end of the day, there's still demand. And you were talking about money circulation before.
Right.
The economy, or like when we think about economics, general principle when it comes to money circulation is, you borrow money, you spend money to buy things, and then at the end of the day, that money comes back to the bank and it just keeps going, right?
Right.
But now what's happening is when you borrow money or you take on leverage, people are not just buying real estate, but now they're putting their money into crypto, putting their money into NFTs.
Yes.
That money's not coming back into circulation. And
Right.
that's the problem. And that's what's driving up everything across the board.
That's so
right?
interesting. Yeah.
And it's new economics that we're living in right now.
Right.
It's an interesting time, and I know we'll see what's going on in the future.
Yeah, and as a real estate broker, the best advice I could tell any clients as well, because who doesn't want to break in when you're ready? You've been working, you're saving, you're putting money aside, hoping to buy a home for yourself or your family or start your own life, whether it's investing. But you always want to look at that hard number where anything beyond it will put you in a financial risk, because the future right now is uncertain from a banking perspective. Right. Interest rates go up, let's say 0.5%. That changes your whole mortgage scenario, right? The last thing you want to do is be in a default of a mortgage scenario. Then you have all these, foreclosed homes, and this could turn into the United States. I highly doubt that will happen, of course. But I'm just saying, if anyone out there, if you're a realtor or you're a client listening in worldwide, as this podcast is very popular, end of the day, you want to stay within your means.
I'm trying.
No, listen, you're a stud in this. So, but those are the key things. Look at your numbers, see where you can push it to. But as these numbers continue to go up, it makes it very challenging, and it puts a buyer in a very uncomfortable situation, because there's someone else who's also going beyond their limit. And then it puts you in a scenario to think about, should I really go to this number? Is this home even worth it, let alone my risk on what could happen in the coming months or years? And that could be money lost, right? So, I mean, in hindsight, that's just the scenario.
Well, look at me. Like, for the longest time, being in Toronto, I was renting. Right. And I kind of, for me, a big part of it was like, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to stay in Toronto. I was like, I'm renting,
Yeah, we had these discussions.
$2,000 a month, let's say you're spending about $24,000 a year, right? Versus, let's say you want to buy a condo and you want to put together as low as 5% or 10%.
Sure.
You're still going to need about, ballpark 60 to about 100K.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which was, it's a lot of money to put aside and save
Absolutely.
up. But man, like you said, you can't, if you're on the sidelines and you just keep watching, you're going to see.
The bus is gone, man.
In 2012, condos were the 300 to 400K range seemed like a lot of money. Now, you can't even get a fucking studio for 300, 400K.
$500,000, man. I'm seeing what's going on.
Yeah. So it's like, it's one of those things where, like, I'm like, you need to get in, of course. Yeah. I saw an interesting episode a couple of weeks ago with Kanye. And he was just talking, the episode started off with him talking about real estate. He doesn't have a home right now. He's actually going hotel to hotel. Nice. And one of the things he said is this notion of real estate, like, it's the social system that we live in, or the construct that we live in, government institutions, they make it seem like, we need security.
Right.
And that security being real estate. We work our 9-to-5 jobs, we work our asses off so we can save enough money. And then eventually when we buy a home, a big chunk of our pay goes towards mortgage.
Right.
So we're constantly living a life where this real estate has control of our day to day.
Okay.
Right. Which is, I found it really interesting. I was like, which is why he goes hotel to hotel. around the world.
Interesting.
He just he doesn't have a physical place because he's like, real estate is used to control society. And if you think about it, man, whoever is listening to this podcast, like, real estate is dictating a lot of our decisions day to day.
Right.
Our home, where are we going to live? What kind of shelter do we want to have? The people that are ahead in the game right now are the ones that are also in the investment game of real estate. And then you're thinking, okay, I need to put $100K aside and buy a home.
Look, man, that's a very interesting concept, going hotel to hotel, sort of like short-term rentals or living in situations. But with COVID, I think now we're in a scenario where people are working from home, right? People look at their current incomes, their lifestyle that they're looking to live. We've now found out, and we're seeing it in everyday statistics, the cities in the burbs outside the GTA have taken a huge jump in real estate pricing. And people have left the downtown. People are leaving Mississauga, Brampton, Richmond Hill, Vaughan, Markham. They're going out to Pickering, Ajax, Oshawa, Whitby on the West End. You're going to Milton, even beyond that. Some going to Georgetown, Acton. So people are in Kitchener, Waterloo, the tech hub, right? So we're looking at which cities are going to be the next boom. Like Ottawa's been growing, Montreal's been growing. I think Montreal might be the next boom. So people keep an eye out there. But I think that the money you make and the lifestyle that you want to live will dictate that. So living in Toronto, it's extremely expensive. You've been here. We have rented downtown. The lifestyle, I don't think you can get anywhere else. The things that are available, you can't get anything else. Yeah. But from your everyday standpoint, family, friends, your work, if you're working from home, that gives you that option to leave the city, buy a home, that double car garage. If you're looking for 2,500 square feet, you can get it now. But yeah, you're paying now a premium because of the shortages and this increase in real estate. But at least you can have that dream, because that same number in Toronto, you're looking in the millions.
Right.
Bare minimum.
I guess it comes down to what it is that you want.
Right.
Because like you said, if there was ever a drop in real estate or some sort of crash, it's the further away cities that are going to be hit the most or hit first. Right. Whereas Toronto, well, these core cities like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver are going to be a lot more, I'd say, resilient through any sort of correction, if there was like a bubble correction of some sort. Whereas places like Woodstock, Chatham, those places would probably feel the crash first compared to, core cities.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to that. Yes and no. I'm also a believer that, let's just say you have a townhome compared to a detached home. The smaller home will always hold its value better than a bigger home. The bigger home takes the bigger loss. So if you come to the city and we're talking about overall,
why is that? It's just,
well, let's look at benchmarks right now. You're buying a townhome. What average price of a townhome in the GTA right now is somewhere between $800,000 to $900,000. Right. And this obviously depends on age and, of course, what's in the home, but in location. But overall, the $800,000 that you spend on a townhome compared to a $2 million detached subdivision home nowadays, let's say, if a crash happens, who's going to be willing to pay $2 million for a detached home compared to $800,000? The $800,000 now becomes more affordable. Right? So the real loss is on the detached, bigger size homes. These estate lots that are 5-6 million, they start to drop from 5 million to maybe 3.5, 3 million, because people are less inclined to spend that increase of price on these, 1% home affordability range, if you want to talk that in percentiles. And then the townhome is the entry level home. So those homes are going to remain and hold its value better from a percentage standpoint than the larger homes. So you mentioned Woodstock and these other areas. I think they'll still hold their value. They're not going to take a crash, but they would be.
I guess it depends on the actual real estate itself, right?
Yes.
I think like if you were to compare apples with apples, a townhome in Toronto versus a townhome in Woodstock, Toronto will hold more value compared to Woodstock.
Would definitely hold more value.
That's what I'm saying.
But the price would drop more. If you look at how much money the drop was, it would be dropped more in Toronto than, say, in Woodstock.
Really?
But I'm just looking the basic numbers of it, because what's the price in, say, Woodstock in a townhome? Haven't done too much work out in Woodstock. So
I'd say 450, 400.
So 450. Yeah. How much more could it drop compared to what's in Toronto. Maybe the townhomes are going for 1.2, 1.3.
Yeah, but I don't think so, because I think you'll have more buyers. You'll have more people. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. You might actually be right.
Right.
But I'm just thinking about from like, simple economics. There's more demand in Toronto.
No doubt.
You'll have more buyers that are going to drive up the price a little bit higher.
Sure.
And keep the margin a little bit more thin compared to maybe a place like Woodstock.
Right.
Where you might have a seller that's desperate, wants to get out. I think you may see a more percentage drop there.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
We don't know. We don't know.
I would say it's very subjective to how things will play out from region to region and city to city. But the GTA right now is extremely unaffordable. It's very tough for anyone in our generation to go out and just say, yeah, we'll go out and go buy a house that we looked at before that was $500,000. Now they're 1.5. Just getting mortgages for that. I mean, you know.
Man, I have friends and I actually have clients as well looking at, 1.5, $2 million homes. Nas just bought a house in Calabasas for $3 million.
Wow.
And you know what I mean? And, it's crazy also because we were talking about real estate and the need for real estate and how much it controls us. But the other thing is we also get tied down geographically to that as well. And I was listening to another podcast and they're talking about, this new world that we're entering. Once travel isn't as restricted as it is now, it's a little bit of it's a bit annoying right now to travel, but people need to get out more. People not just need to go on vacation more, but people need to be like, we need to move. You're in Toronto for 10 years, let's go somewhere else for 10 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that kind of really depends on now. It's a lot of bullshit like finding jobs and the requirements, all that, but there will be a period of time in the future where because we're so mobile or because we're so remote from the physical workplace,
right,
we'll have the ability and the need and the want to actually live in other places around the world. Right?
You just got me thinking. I got a point that just came up. So it's very interesting to think, how we were talking about prices in Woodstock and whatnot, but something just triggered my mind is it's the economic job situation. The reason we see these outskirts picking up in price is people are working from home. So the economic situation for that particular household didn't change. So there's so many outside extraneous factors that we just can't, I'm not an expert in to talk about, but the reason why people go to Woodstock and these areas, or even, Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, they've gone up so much in price is their salaries have been the same working where they are, but from home saving more money because they don't have to commute anymore or go downtown. And those areas, people are willing to pay the price to go there, so they have gone up so much more. But now if you're talking about Toronto taking a hit, if they're forced back to work back in Toronto and you're living in Woodstock, it'll force someone to sell in Woodstock. Now what's the likelihood of you finding someone in a time like that to buy in Woodstock and then come back to Toronto? The demand in Toronto would go crazy. The prices would go bonkers and it would just keep climbing. So there's so many factors to look at from an economic standpoint to see, okay, can someone really afford it? Because now you're forced back to work. If the work from home remains, well, I mean, money's getting now dispersed across the GTA and the Golden Horseshoe. That makes it more affordable than other areas. Look at London, for example. The prices have doubled easily in the last maybe 2.5 years. And people are willing to go out there. They have a downtown, they have the infrastructure, and they're now expanding even more subdivisions.
There's a lot of issues everywhere now.
Everywhere.
They're pushing further and further west or south towards London.
Right.
And then, but even to the East End, man.
Out
of Scarborough, Ajax is popping off as well.
Pickering, listen to this. Pickering's price competes directly with Brampton and Peel.
Yeah.
Pickering's price is competing right now in Peel with Brampton. Right. And I mean, I think about Pickering.
And Pickering, you probably pay less car insurance compared to Brampton.
No doubt. Brampton's the worst in Canada, right? So, I mean, your cost perspective, of course, you're going to save more. And I think with Pickering bordering Toronto, there's so much happening over there. Great place to go and buy in the East End. But growing up, when I heard the word Pickering, I was thinking boonies. Yeah. I'm like, we're like, why? Where are you going? Pickering? That sounds like it's so far. Let alone hearing Oshawa, right? Because we knew the GM plant, there was work, there was things there. But now I thought Pickering, but it's incredible. Even Ajax. So.
Dude, people say Ajax and Pickering are so far away in the boonies. Even I have friends in the West End that are saying that right now. Dude, I'm in Scarborough. It's a fucking 10-minute drive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
But man, listen, what's going on otherwise, man? What do you got back from camping?
Got back camping.
Winter camping.
Yes.
How was
man.
that like?
Very interesting. First time doing it. We went up north to McGregor Point Provincial Park. The only park right now that's offering winter camping services. So there's about 40 campsites available. They provide electricity, but just no water, obviously, because it'll freeze in the winter. The concept is quite interesting, but you definitely don't want to be in a tent. You'll freeze your ass off. Yeah, you'll be done.
Yeah.
So it's best to, if you go up, if you got, an RV or something like that,
Right.
you can take
So you guys had an RV?
Yeah, so my father-in-law has one, and he had parked it up there. We have it for about 5 months, and this whole camping experience is incredible. It's a way to disconnect. You get away from the busy life. You go up there, it's naturey. You're seeing the trees. You go on trails. You're biking, and then in the winter, the real cool twist here is the provincial park provides skating facilities. They do cross-country facilities. That's just there. You just have to bring your own equipment. Right. The trails will all be ready for you. It's just south of Port Elgin and Saugeen, the shores over there, right on the lake of right off the lake of Huron. Okay. So Lake Huron, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
And how far of a drive is that, let's say, from Brampton or from Toronto?
So from Brampton, I'll say Toronto, you're looking at about 2 hours, 40 minutes. Brampton, 2 hours, 20 minutes.
Okay. So it's close to Tobermory.
Yeah, I would say just south of Tobermory.
South of Tobermory,
Half an hour, 40 minutes from Tobermory. And it's just the perfect distance. It's not too far that you don't want to go. And it's
was this your first time winter camping?
First time.
Okay. And what was the hardest
So
thing?
I'm a camper. I
know you are.
I go camping all the time.
Well, we go camping
We
every
go camping
summer.
all the time too. Yeah.
Me and Satmik, I think we've gone camping every summer for the last 8 or 9 years.
9 years. Tobermory being one of the main spots for us.
We've pretty much gone to Tobermory almost every year.
And then this summer in the West End, we met up in Jasper.
In Alberta.
Alberta, yeah.
We met
Banff,
up there.
Jasper. So we camped out there in Banff. And
I forgot about that. You camped out
we
there
camped
too.
out in Banff. It's just a different experience from summer to winter. The weather's a huge factor. Cooking, you got to have a tarp set up for like a cooking station. Remember, washing dishes is all manual. There's no water that you're getting, so you bring buckets. So it's a little bit more that desi style where you got to go fill up with hot water, come back, but they give you power. So everything's interesting. So I took the Tesla up, plugged it in. It was charging. Maybe you can, if you need some more space, you can put it on.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, buddy. Trying to make that change over to the EVs. Save that gas.
Aren't we all?
That's right. Gas prices are killer.
Yeah.
So so it was really good, and there's only 30 campsites.
Okay.
So it makes it interesting to see. You get to know the community and the people there.
Yeah.
Feels like more of a retirement community that's there.
Yeah.
So this is their escape in the winter.
We joke about this all the time. Me and Rupi always say this. We say "Gorianakam," right?
Gorianakam.
Things white people would do. And when you mentioned winter camping, I was like, man, why winter?
Yeah.
But I can see when you mentioned skating, and we're gonna go in January, so I'll tell you guys how that experience is like. But skating, skiing, everything. You got the bonfire,
Absolutely. Go on trails.
As long as it's like a nice snow day, I guess, and it's not like super, super cold or freezing.
Believe this, we're talking about camping, but property values in Port Elgin, that's the closest town or city to this campsite. We saw a detached bungalow 2-car garage go for $880.
Oh, wow.
And this is Port Elgin, 2 hours and 20 minutes away from Brampton for $880. So tell me about prices going down over there. Who knows, man? I don't know what's coming up with Port Elgin, but the new developments are happening even out there. So
think about it like this: immigration is there's a shit. I forgot the number, but
it's picking up.
It's in the millions that we're expecting in the next 2 years. I think up until 2024 is what they're saying. So it's just going to drive up real estate prices even more.
People are coming with money, man.
But people that can find ways to kind of work remotely are going to be able to be like, why spend $900 on a townhome when I can buy a detached, like you said, buy Port Elgin, $880. Why not make it happen, right?
Work from home.
But yeah, man, it's interesting, man. I think so. We're going back to the office.
They gave you a date? So
what happened was they sent an email out work, and they're like, hey, who's interested? And you know what? I've been working from home since March 2020. So I'm pretty comfortable. Like I like the routine. I like the flexibility.
Good work-life balance.
Work-life balance is so in the sense that I feel like I'm working a little bit more.
Okay.
But now I'm reaching a point where I'm like, you know what? I want to return back to the office. But the new like the future state is that you're only expected to come to the office 2 to 3 days a week. And so you work from home for the rest of the 2 days, which is nice. But anyway, so on Friday last week, I sent an email to HR, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna volunteer. I'll be one of the first group of people to come back to the office.
Right.
Mid-January after the bachelor party, and that same day, a buddy
Can't
of
wait
mine,
for that, by the way. Can't come soon enough.
Yeah, 40 something days.
Under that, man.
Under that, yeah. So I'm like, my buddy's like, hey, why don't you meet me downtown? I'm like, all right, cool.
Right.
We had plans to kind of go out, and I was like, I'll just. It was with Killer.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm like, I'll take the subway down.
Yeah.
So I took the subway. This is like my first time taking the TTC, like in this, like after the shutdown, after the lockdown, right? Yeah. I got my Presto card. I found it underneath like the drawers, took it. And for some reason, I made sure that there was money on there because I'm like, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm getting on the bus
and you're stuck
and it doesn't tap. I don't want the attention. It's like, you never know what kind of driver you get. Sometimes they're lenient. Sometimes they're like, no, sorry, get the fuck off the bus. It was cold outside too. So I was like, I'm just going to put $20 on the card. And then I knew as soon as I reloaded the card, I'm like, it's not going to show up on my balance right away. It takes 24 hours. So I printed a receipt, like an invoice. To show and I sent it to my phone. I went the extra fucking mile. Anyways.
I've never done that, by the way, but that's good.
I'm a law-abiding citizen, Like, so I go to the bus. I get there. I'm like waiting. I get on the bus. I tap. Didn't. I'm like, tap again. Didn't. Like, I'm like, fuck. The guy looking at me. The bus is waiting. He's looking at me. He's like, yo, there's no money. I'm like, sir, I just put money on there. I'm going through my phone. And I'm showing. And the guy's like, I don't know what the hell that is. I'm like, look at the timestamp. I literally put money on there, whatever. And he looked at me, gave me the stare like, this guy's fucking bullshitting. He's like, fine, go on. I'm on the bus. Journey starts. I'm headed to Toronto. I'm on the 129 McCowan, go to Scarborough Town Center. And usually the route is from Scarborough Town, you take the LRT to Kennedy. And from Kennedy, you take the subway to Yonge and Bloor. I get on the bus and I kind of, Satmik, to be honest with you, I feel a little out of place. I was like, yo, there's like too many. There's a lot more sketchy people from when I last remember. And on the bus, some guy was like looking at me. And bro, this guy was winking at me. But not in a romantic way. No, okay. He was winking at me like, he was like saying, fuck you. Like the way he was winking. It was a very aggressive, like, and he was talking to me. I'm like, listen to music. I'm like, yo, is this guy talking to me? And he was like murmuring. I just realized he wasn't okay. Right. So I kind of got sketched out. I was noticing a lot more things. I got on the LRT and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, this is like, it's a lot more sketchier than I last remembered. And but then I had this like realization. And the realization was the reason I was more observant is because it's been a long time since I've been on the subway, on the TTC. Of course. That shit was happening before too. I just didn't notice it.
You pay attention to it.
Because I used to take it every single day. So it didn't bother me. Whereas now, after 18 months I'm on it, I'm noticing it. And it got me thinking, like, when you're in an environment, and this goes and applies to life, when you're in an environment that's very familiar to you and you're used to it day to day, you don't really notice the little things. That's a great point. You move on with life. Yeah, that's a great point. But when you put yourself in a situation where you don't really, it's new again, or, you notice every little detail. That's why one of the main reasons when we travel to a new city, we take pictures of everything. We see a fucking bench. We see something. We become a tourist. But we got to become a tourist of our own lives. And that was a realization I had. I'm like, yo, I think it's always been sketchy. Like back in the days, the TTC used to have articles about some guy masturbating under Doritos. Do you remember the story? The Doritos chips bag. Yeah, like some fucked up shit used to happen on the TTC. So I'm like, you know what, Sonny, it's normal, whatever.
Yeah, it exists.
As I'm having this thought, dude, I'm like, yo, my first time back on the TTC. What are the odds that there's like some sort of stoppage? Right. Like, like I'm sure there's gonna be something. 2 minutes later, man, I hear the TTC lady, yo, all trains will be turning back from Woodbine. Oh, no. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what? Get to Woodbine. I'm thinking it might be a 10-minute delay. I'm just going to wait. I go on Twitter, TTC. That's where I usually go to kind of see the updates. Getting the updates. And like that way, people like complain and stuff. You know exactly what's happening real time. Yeah. I'm like, I'll wait. TTC guy comes down and one of the superintendents, and he's like, yo, the trains aren't moving for the next couple of hours. There's an investigation happening because somebody got pushed at the Yonge and Bloor subway station.
Oh no.
So someone actually got pushed
Onto the tracks.
onto the tracks. So there's like obviously some sort of investigation happening. It's fucking cold as hell. I'm at Woodbine. I'm like, dude, I kind of regret now sending that email to HR. Because I was like, this is my first time back on the TTC. This is going to be my life from January onwards. I should have just pushed
Unexpected things can happen.
Unexpected things can happen.
Yeah.
So, I waited there, man. Luckily, Killer came to pick me up, scooped me. It was the adventure, man.
Wow.
And it's like, the TTC is massively under budget before COVID. Now they've lost a ton of revenue.
A ton.
I can only imagine it's just going to be harder and harder. You know what I mean?
Totally, and they're doing more expansions. The Eglinton LRT,
which is what? How long has that been taking?
It's been going on. I don't know. Feels like a decade now.
More than a decade.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the city of Toronto has been, I think, behind on transportation infrastructure for quite some time, but they're trying to make progress. COVID's definitely slowed them down, and I think it'll take a couple of years when things really open up. But I think people are sick of it too. By the way, Sonny, like, I got to point this out. I think after 2 years now of lockdowns, people are now coming to the realization that they're going to have to live with this. So what's the only thing you can do, the preventative measures, is get your vaccine and just be careful when you go out. Wear your mask, sanitize, keep your social distance, but they want to still live their lives. They're going on vacations. They're going, on trips, going to different events, concerts. Things are back up.
Yeah.
Sporting events are back. Like, things are happening. I think the first year, it was like, I don't know if I want to go. Think about it from the wedding industry. People were putting weddings, 400 people weddings. Some people are like, I'm just not going to go, right? Now, they're starting to realize that, am I going to really pause my life because of COVID-19, even when I'm double vaxxed? People are now realizing that all you really can't, we're getting Omicron coming in. And
Omicron,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get all these variants. There might be another one that comes out in another 6-8 months. Who knows?
Yeah.
But all you can do is take the preventative measure and not really slow down the things you want to do in life. So that realization on its own will hopefully help not just people get back to this new version of normal, quote unquote, but hopefully it picks up, and this work from home can have a good sort of mixed balance, and a new paradigm shift begins from an employment standpoint and lifestyle. But this is going to stay now moving forward. We just don't know how long, right?
I think it's going to be like societal changes that happen in the basic structures of society take decades. There's been very, very important changes in the way we behave now. For example, within the last 18 months, because of this pandemic, where we've become slightly more germaphobes, rightfully so. We wash our hands all the time. We understand wearing masks now in public settings, right? Contact tracing, social distancing. No longer will you get into an elevator where there's 16 people jam-packed into the elevator. Yeah. It'll be 2 or 3. People now ask each other, hey, are you okay with me coming onto the elevator? Like, there's these key changes: social distancing, contact tracing, masks, vaccination passports.
Yeah.
These are all things that we do now day to day. Even going to clubs and restaurants, like, the first thing they ask you is now, even to access the menu, there's no paper menus. It's all QR cards.
QR codes, yeah.
Is contact tracing. So, like, your data is now being traced and it's there. But man, it's also a big fucking formality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it forces you, if you have an expired ID and you don't have things with you, you just don't get access to all these things anymore as well, right? But I think it's a big issue. But these QR codes, I was reading an article last week. I think there's a lot of things where companies, when they scan your QR code, we're talking about the security of your information. When a company scans your QR code,
right,
they now have your vaccination status. They're viewing your ID. Think about it. Servers are going out verifying your ID with your vaccination pass. I guess it's the only way, really, if you're trying to go in.
Right.
But how safe is my data with the company when I do it? Personally speaking, I have a printout of my double dose with no QR code, and I can just show my double dose with ID.
Right.
I'm not having companies scan my QR code,
Yeah.
because now that's the digital realm that we're getting in, where they're storing that fully vaccinated information, and maybe I'm recognized as a number to them, but this is all data information that companies are registering of where you are with contact tracing. So your QR code then registers with this company saying you were at this particular restaurant, and that number or whatever identity the government has for you is then used as contact tracing to go back. So they already have that. This is already behind the scenes.
Think about Google Analytics, right? Like we're talking about data now. Data is also considered assets, right? Data is also considered like, not like gold, but it's like a form of currency. Your data is valuable.
Absolutely.
But you don't control your data.
Right.
The moment you make a Facebook account, you probably don't read the terms and conditions, but everything you put onto Facebook, for example, your name, your pictures, your bio, that data now is property of Facebook. The same logic applies to Instagram, Google. Same logic applies to TikTok, all these other platforms, which is why like crypto or like the blockchain or Web 3.0, which is the bigger, I think people need to really understand what Web 3.0 is, but that's where you're in control of your data.
Interesting.
You own your data. Your data is now on the blockchain. Everyone can see it, but you're in control of your data. And that's a completely different topic, but it's like the technology revolution that we've seen. There's now like this Web 3.0 revolution that's going to happen, where like there's now internet browsers out there like Brave browser that's on the blockchain, where they pay you $20 a month. Look this up.
To use their browser?
To use their browser.
Oh, wow.
I kid you not. Yeah, look it up. It's Brave browser.
Let me download it right now.
Download it. Your information, everything is secure, and it's totally private, and you get paid $20 per month.
Interesting.
But it's going to be an interesting world we live in, man. I'm just happy to kind of, going back to what we were talking about earlier, just got to live your life. Yeah. Be present, be mindful. Things are going to change. Shit's going to be very different, but you just kind of roll with the punches.
Huge shout out to you, man, on doing these podcasts, not only just with people and business partners. This has been, I listen to your podcast all the time. You do an incredible job. And,
Thank you, bro.
I'm proud to be here. It's a pleasure to be talking with you on these.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. You know what? I often, I feel like we get like in this creative funk where, everyone needs a creative outlet.
Right.
And not enough of us are doing it. Like we're so glued onto our screens that we're not really talking about, not just talking shit, but just talking things that are on our mind. And
love the content. You do great things. You're putting out the word, getting people informed. And it's in good discussion. So
appreciate it, brother.
Proud of you on this.
And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming to Scarborough, man. I feel like you always drive by.
Always
head out to see Ravi in Pickering, and it's like, yo, are you at home? I'm like, nah, man, I'm in Brampton.
No, nothing like that, man. It's just the business has been so busy that timings and getting things in and out, it was never about not coming here. It was just aligning our schedules.
What's I'm gonna ask you a question, and we'll kind of wind down on the podcast. We got places to be. If you could go back to the beginning of this whole pandemic, what would you tell yourself? What's something that you would tell yourself to kind of, what advice would you give yourself?
With the knowledge that I know now, if I went back?
Yeah.
Well, I wish I bought more properties. Right? I wish I'd done more investing even in the stock market. I guess it's all hindsight now, but that's where, with your expertise in finance and what you're doing, incredible things there. But you know what? Outside of the money and the business, I wish I had the chance to travel more. Just newly married, just pre-COVID. Got married in 2019, and then COVID kicked in and lockdowns in 2020. So I wish I had been able to travel more, but really just appreciate. It's always, we talk about this when you lose loved ones and whatnot. You really miss those individuals when they're just not there anymore. I wish I'd spent more time with those loved ones, family that I didn't get a chance to see. COVID gave individuals that chance to go check up on people and whatnot with your loved ones when you never really had to before.
Right.
But now, with the restrictions, you know what? I try to live in the moment, be grounded in reality, but those are the things for me. I wish I traveled more. I wish I did more things with my family and appreciated that a bit more. I've lost some loved ones, obviously, in the past few years, but but COVID's been a blessing in disguise as well. My business has launched huge. Things are, obviously, other than buying more property and investments, it's not all about the money, man. It's the higher the level, the bigger the devil.
Right.
And that's pretty much what it is.
That's true. That's the higher the level, the bigger the devil.
Yeah. So you're just taking on. You got to be careful what you ask for in life. You really got to be careful.
You got to be careful, but you got to also live life where you end up dancing with the devil. You know what I mean? Shout out to Manny.
Shout out Devil in 3-piece. So
the thing is I think that's perfect, man. I think you're right when death is always something that humbles you and it gets you thinking like,
didn't want to make it all sour about it, but
like life moves super, super fast.
So quick.
Life is, and it's moving more faster than normal because we're also very busy. We don't have much idle time. We are working. We have a million things that we're doing, and a big chunk of these things have to do with us paying our bills. Money is kind of at the root of all of this.
Sure.
Where I think at the same time you're gonna have to find that balance where the key to happiness. And I'm reading this book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. The key to happiness, according to the book, one of the things that stood out to me is you gotta live a life of meaningfulness where you serve your passion.
Right.
Where you get out of bed every morning and you are excited to do what it is that you want to do. If you can take your passion and capitalize that and learn how to monetize and make money, and me and you have friends in our immediate circle that are killing it. Shout out to Verdict MMA,
Absolutely.
MMA History, Killer, like everyone's doing their thing.
Pan Records, doing big things.
Pan Records, like, finding your passion and trying to see how you can monetize that. That is the root of all.
Great point. I just want to piggyback on that. One point is you mentioned what I would have done differently. I wish I could have done more in pouring in myself, personal development. You can only invest in yourself, bet on yourself, because you know yourself better than anybody. So this is not obviously a personal development lesson or seminar for anybody, but the point is, by you investing in yourself and making yourself a better person, understanding your significant other, your mom and dad a little bit more, gives a better sense of connection. With your loved ones. Everyone gets into different stages in their life. My parents are aging. We obviously want to make sure their health is also good. But then, as they get out of the whole working force, we become the next generation to help support them, and they look at us for us to be that pillar to hold them up. And just to give you what I was trying to say is, you got to really be careful what you ask for in life. 6 years ago, in 2016, 2015, I got my license, and I just wanted to do deals. I was like, I wanted to close deals, 10, 20, 30 deals a year. This is what I wanted. Now, things didn't play out in my early years. Let's say maybe I was just doing 4, 5, 6 deals a year. But then I think COVID brought something that I wasn't really expecting. I saw the market turn. I thought things would slow down, but that was the year where I think in 2019, 2020, 2021, these have by far been I'm saying, 20 deals that each year that are going through. And I'm not saying that to boast in any way. I'm just telling you the production, but the things that I was asking for, but what responsibility comes with those deals.
Right.
We always want to make more and more deals because what we're looking at is the end result, the dollar values. What am I making? What am I doing? How much? How fast? Right? But that's not the key thing. The responsibility, you got to be careful what you ask for. I'll say it again, because you want to do 20 deals. Do you know what it takes
to do 20 deals?
To do 20 deals, because you still have friends, you still got family. I got a wife. I got all the obligations, double the side of the family now. Checking out mama, cha-cha, pua, this and that. You gotta do those obligations. People getting married, and when you're not there, they're like, Ayani, where are you? Like, what's going on? You're like, I'm dealing with business. Oh, business hun changa ho gaya, then this and that. You forgot about us.
It's sacrifice, right?
Sacrifice, right? So I'm really going through that struggle where I'm doing really well in the business side of things, but I'm also losing a little bit more on that family life.
Right.
So I've got to be careful. Now I look into the coming year as the calendar flips around is, what would I like in 2022 that I didn't have in 2021? Right. And these are the things for me, as you ask me, is I'd like to have more family time. I see my parents at the age of retirement looking to get out. And now, of course, I would want to maintain my work and the business and the money, the revenue streams. But we really got to be careful. Ask yourself,
Yeah.
what is it that I want and what comes with that? Because the difference, we were talking about this a couple weeks back, The Slight Edge. It's a book by Jeff Olson.
Okay.
I would recommend anyone go pick up that book. It's the small things that successful people do every single day that the unsuccessful will choose not to do, because it's just that small thing.
Right.
You know, we hear this in Punjabi, boond will get you the big thing at the end of the day, your savings at the end of the day, but not going buying a meal every day. You save that, it adds up at the end.
Absolutely.
So doing the small things, and like, you're an inspiration, man. You wake up every day, you're hitting the gym.
I'm just lately.
Well, you look good right now, man.
Just lately. I mean, I have no choice. I got
You got something
between the
coming up.
wedding and the batch.
Yeah.
You know,
That's good. So these are the things that you can do every day that other people don't, that separate you from everyone else.
I think you know, there was something that I read it the other day where, you know, you wake up 1 hour earlier a day, that's another 3 years to your life.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Big stat.
Think about that. Just another hour a day, like waking up in the morning. You live your life you live your life longer. And manifestation is kind of, I think that's what you were alluding to. That's the most important thing, because if you're thinking negative, if you're thinking that you don't have this, I'm not going to get this, you're not going to get it. You know, oftentimes, you know, we think about, like I saw this other TikTok where it's like, you know, you want to make $300,000 a year. How much is that per day?
Yeah.
You should know that.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't answer that.
Right.
It's $900 a day.
There you go.
So what can I do today to make $900 a day?
Right.
And the whole point is, you want to retire early. Well, you need a game plan. And so having these short, small goals, daily goals, weekly goals, having a report card every quarter, you know, checking in with your friends, making sure you guys drive each other, and which we do, is critical. But my man,
Hey, man.
having said that, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We got to do this again.
We will.
Everybody else, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Happy December.
Happy
2021 is coming to a wrap. End the year strong. Savage mode. Let's go. It's always sunny in the 6. Peace.